Chair Evans, Vice Chair Boone, and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Kelly Fitzpatrick. As Chair Evans mentioned, I'm the selectee for the Director of ODVA, and I'm very pleased to be here. My background is broad and colorful and very exciting. I spent 16 years in the Army and did many things overseas and in various U.S. installations, especially in such warfighting elements as the 2nd Armored Division at Fort Hood and the 24th Infantry Division, which is now the 3rd Infantry Division at Fort Stewart. And I used to parachute out of perfectly good airplanes occasionally and earned the Southwest Asia Service Medal, among other medals. In addition to that, I went to law school and earned a law degree after serving a few years in the private sector in the paper industry. And then after law school, I thought that I was going to go on to something that was not national security related, but 9/11 happened during my 3rd year of law school, and I got sucked back into the national security mechanism very willingly and hoping to do more good things in the public service of our country. I went to the Pentagon and served for many years as a civilian senior executive in the Office of the Secretary of Defense and the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, helping the department to talk about a lot of super secret types of intelligence programs with the Congress. And those programs were often interesting and contentious, and I helped shape those conversations. And in 2016, I left the Pentagon and joined the staff of one of our congressional delegation members, Senator Merkley, to be the military and veterans advisor here in the state and helped veterans on an individual basis. And it really gave me a great window on the world of veterans issues in the state and just opened my eyes to a lot of things that when the director position for ODVA opened up, I thought I could take those skills and all the other things that I had learned over the years and then help ODVA and all of the Oregon veterans with all those skills that I brought to bear. So with that, I would also like to introduce Mitch Sparks, who has been the acting director, serving in a stellar capacity at the helm of the ship of ODVA. Am I talking in good Navy terms?
Absolutely.
Good. And so we'll be talking.
I'll be very happy with that, by the way.
I'm just an Army person. So we'll be giving kind of an overview and an update on a couple of key programs. We're very thankful because they're good illustrations of the partnerships that we form, not the least of which is the partnership with our legislature and all of the help that you've provided to us and the veterans as we're going along. So what I'd like you to take away from this, if nothing else, is that these programs show early promise for a number of reasons. They demonstrate a great partnership between us to transform the lives of Oregon's veterans. But another common theme is that a relatively small amount of money can go a long way. You really get a great bang for your buck in the investment that you've made in these programs because when the little bit of money is combined with caring and creative solutions that often are at the grassroots of Oregon and focused on outcomes for veterans, it really achieves great things to help them. So with that, I'd like to move into the Veteran Service Grant Fund update, and I believe that we've provided testimony on this that should be available to you. House Bill 2891 established the ODVA Veteran Service Grant Fund and allocated a little more than $500,000 in grant funds. It was funded using lottery fund dollars established by ballot measure 96, a fantastic program that limits the use of the funds to provide services for Oregon veterans. And so the parameters are that the grants can be a minimum of $25,000 and a maximum of $250,000. All the grants were one-time grants, and all work under the grants have to be completed by June 30th, 2019, the end of the biennium. So again, going back to my theme of big bang for the buck, this grant program had, again, about a little more than $500,000, $550,000 available, and the response to this was absolutely overwhelming. ODVA received 59 grant proposals, totaling more than $5 million. And so, again, I'm kind of foot stomping this. So the requests were nearly 10 million, or 10 times the amount of the available funds, more than $5 million requested for $550,000 that were available. So in April of 2018, the evaluation committee, which Mitch will go into a little more detail after I turn things over to him, the evaluation committee funded 10, only 10, of those 59 proposals. That's 17% of the total number of grant proposals submitted. 10% of the total dollar amount requested was funded. So again, big bang for the buck. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Mitch for him to go into more of a deep dive.
Good morning, Chair Evans, Vice Chair Boone, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Mitch Sparks, and I work for the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs. My status will be changing here very quickly.
As long as that status remains with you there.
Absolutely. I have no plans to go anywhere. Just to kind of thank you for this opportunity to talk about both grant programs today. I think they were very significant when tied into Measure 96 and transforming our agency, and in a way that I've never thought when I started working for the agency in 2008. So this has been a transformational programs, and Measure 96 is really the catalyst behind that. With 2891, we were tasked with formulating a formal grant for this from ground zero. We had a lot of direction. It had to be vetted. People had to be vetted. We better use the money wisely. I mean, there was just a whole, through the legislative intent itself. So what we looked at were the processes for eligibility requirements, outcomes, evaluation criteria, who was going to sit on the committee, the contracts, because every grantee has a contract that we had to sign with us, streamlined applications, and then we also looked at how are we going to get this out to the people who wanted and needed the money. So we decided that we would post it on our website and then work through ORPN, the contract website for the state of Oregon. So we did a very good public campaign to get that out to as many groups as possible. First of all, as we were going through getting this grant made up, so we had to figure out who were the eligible applicants, and this was a tremendous amount of work. We had a small group of us that basically got locked in a room with boxing gloves and and some rules that we had to have, but we all had opinions. But really, what it boiled down to is we wanted nonprofits to apply, veterans organizations, tribal or regional or local governments, and then we took a very close look at Oregon quasi-public agencies or intergovernmental agencies that we made for eligibility for the grant. And then the next big topic area we had to tackle was what were the categories? What do we want people, what's the need out there? So we looked at mental, physical health care, housing security, employment opportunities and stability, education and training for veterans, transportation, accessibility and availability, critical services for veterans provided by our service organizations, and programs identified by our Veterans Affairs Committee. And an important part of this is that what could they not use the money for, and that was for capital cost, renovations, deficit financing, debt retirement, memorials or tributes. We restricted direct payments of monies to veterans and other individuals, or grants from the grantee to another agency. So that was a very thoughtful process we went through to look at that. And then the biggest area of all was, how do we effectively score these proposals and award the money to the people and the services that are needed most out in our state? So 100-point system based on just kind of a review of the following, which is goals and targeted subject areas, meeting the needs of veterans. This is an outcome-based grant, so we wanted to look at how many veterans are you going to serve? And really importantly, does the proposer have the capacity to do what they said that they were going to do? So we really looked at that very carefully. And another area that we looked at for our nonprofits is, are they an established nonprofit that paid, that are 501c or other type of nonprofits? So measurable outcomes is a big part of this, and it had to match with their capacity and what their plan of action was. What gaps in services were they fulfilling? And then their budget proposal. And we're looking at alignment of, what are their administrative costs and such, and then letters of support or recommendation from other folks. So then we had selected our evaluation committee, seven-person evaluation committee that included both past and present Veterans Advisory Board members. We had six of the 7 were veterans of every branch of service, so that was good. We had a person who was a compliance manager who was a state of Oregon employee that came out, a grant writer that worked for a nonprofit that had not applied for the grant but had a lot of experience, and then one ODVA staff member or manager that sat on the grant committee. And it was a monumental task to do 59. It actually came in 3 boxes, so that each proposal, I hear some laughter behind me. It was we made copies of every grant for every proposer and gave them a good length of time to go over them. And so as 59 applicants, and I won't go back into what our director had already talked about.